Lately, I have had the strangest feeling, with no vivid reason here to find, that we've been making a bunch of videos just kinda dunking on goalies around the NHL. A few weeks ago, it was Jacob Markstrom. We talked about his decline. A little bit later, it was St. Louis Blues goalie Jordan Binnington. And today we are talking about, as with Jacob Markstrom, another goaltender who is in Alberta and who has been severely declining the past little while. Let's talk today about Oilers netminder Jack Campbell, and the idea as to whether or not Campbell's time in Edmonton is coming to an end based off of the small sample he has had with them so far. Now, if you need a little bit of a refresher on how everything came to be this way, Jack Campbell was a goalie from all around. He was with Dallas, he was with LA, he was up and down with LA. He eventually found himself the starting job with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but after having a pretty good campaign with them, all things considered, I think a lot of people could say that Soup was legitimately good. He ended up becoming a free agent and going to the Oilers in 22-23. He had signed a big money deal, $5 million a season till the end of 2027. He's 31 years old right now, and in his most previous NHL season with the Oilers, the guy had an .888 save percentage and a .341 goals against in 36 games played. Now, despite the numbers, he still had a shutout, and he still had a very positive record. 21-13 was the wins and losses there, and even in the small sample in the playoffs, he actually did bounce back pretty well. .961 save percentage, 102 goals against in 4 games. Those numbers are honestly quite godlike. But when it comes to Campbell and the season he had, sure, he had himself a really good tenure in Toronto. But his Oilers stint, at least in his first year, has only been hot and cold. Super good in terms of the playoff performance, but not reliable and consistent throughout the regular season. This is why, if you go over on a recent article on The Athletic, take a look at Alan Mitchell's Edmonton Oilers 23-24 Complete Reasonable Expectations piece from Low Tide, this idea is directly confronted. Now, I'm sure you know the protocol. We're not going to screenshot this. It's The Athletic. It's paid for material. Therefore, you should go out there and read it yourself if you have a subscription. But what I will refer your attention to is this article at NHLTradeTalk.com going over what it is that is written about in this Athletic piece. Jack Campbell's leash is short with the Oilers, and a trade apparently appears to be on the radar. Campbell's future in Edmonton remains uncertain, as his early performance dictates how quickly the Oilers look at trade options. Take a look at how the article phrases the Athletic's writings. Alan Mitchell from the Athletic suggests that if Campbell's consistency wavers yet again, the Oilers might explore alternative options to shore up their goaltending situation. Mitchell's projections lean towards Stuart Skinner, securing the primary goaltending position, which could relegate Campbell to a supporting role. Any real struggles by Campbell could lead to the Oilers quickly looking around the trade market. He writes this: "If Campbell struggles again, it's possible the Oilers move him out in favor of a more consistent option." And frankly, if things get really bad and a trade isn't easy to navigate due to Campbell's salary and the term remaining on his deal, Mitchell wonders if the Oilers will call upon Olivia Rodrigo, who is in their minor league system and showcasing a promising future for the Oilers' netminding lineup. Yeah, okay, I didn't know that Olivia Rodrigo was a hockey goalie, but yeah, I digress. We're talking about Olivier Rodrigue, not Olivia Rodrigo, so yeah, he's a goalie prospect in the Oilers' system. Bakersfield. Funny name. But this article is really crazy for going out there and suggesting the idea that if Campbell is so bad next year, if the consistency is not there, you could see Skinner and Rodrigue as the 1-2 rather than Campbell and Skinner or Skinner and Campbell. They just might forget about Campbell entirely if they're not able to trade him away. Campbell's journey with the Oilers began amid high expectations after his 2022 All-Star recognition. He had signed a big free agent deal and struggled to live up to it. There were times his game looked strong, including a 9-game winning streak from January to February, which propelled the Oilers up the division ranks, but his inconsistency and talk of his mental hardship to maintain a certain level had fans worried. And here's the thing with that. I'm not going to go out there and blame Jack Campbell for having his struggles, because for me personally, I feel like I'm in a really similar boat. Like, mental capacity, belief in oneself and confidence to be able to say, yeah, I am the guy 110% of the time, even when you falter, even when you have a bad night. I'm not going to go out there and say that everybody is perfect, but I will say that hockey players, especially goalies, they have to have this sort of killer mentality to be able to succeed at this level, because the demand is so strong and so hard that the normal human being probably couldn't live up to the workload and pressure, expectations and beyond that a regular, everyday NHL goalie probably sustains. And only the ones who are at the pinnacle, the peak of peaks, are able to do that. Jack Campbell played like a goalie at the peak of peaks for quite some time in Toronto. But there always was this noted element that, hey, his mental strength, his mental stability, not like, sanity or whatever, we're not talking about that, but just his ability to get wavered and how his mentality can affect his gameplay in the negative way. This happened quite a bit, and we had a few conversations. I remember Kelly Harudi on Hockey Night in Canada specifically talking about how Campbell needs to stop being so hard on himself in the post-game press conferences. If he has a bad game, if he has a bad night, whatever, yeah, you can hold yourself accountable, but the way this guy talks himself down, that's a really big indicator as to where his mindset is mentally in the eyes of the Hockey Night in Canada analysts on that specific day. And so, obviously, playing in a Canadian market, there's a lot of demand, there's a lot of pressure, and if you lose, if you let in a bad goal, there's so much angst amongst the fans in Canadian markets compared to other teams, I would say, that bringing this up as an issue, his overall mental hardship to maintain a certain level of play, I could totally understand why fans may be worried about that. Because even though you have yourselves a goalie who, when he's on top of his game, he is legitimately great, there are those hiccups once in a while. All it takes is one bad goal. You know what the difference is between you and me? One bad day. That's it. As the Joker once said to the Batman. This particular article in NHLTradeTalk.com goes out there and talks about a few other options. Hey, Connor Hellebuck, John Gibson, whatever. There are a few conversations you can have about guys that could be linked to Edmonton. But at the end of the day, when it comes to Campbell and his consistency as an Oilers netminder, we're already starting to see the cracks here. That if the inconsistency persists, the athletic guys are going out there and saying, hey, he could be on the trade block. Like, who really knows? So, ultimately, when it comes to the decline, we had already talked about Markey, we talked about Binnington, but Jack Campbell also had a pretty good statistical decline as well. It's just a lot of that was overshadowed by his playoff sample. 4 games played, .961 save percentage, 102 goals against. Very strong numbers. Now, sure, he didn't start most of the games in that series, but when he was called upon to play, he was reliable enough. I feel like a lot of these numbers seem a little bit inflated too. Like, sure, you could say Campbell had the .961, like, it's there. It's definitely not wrong. It's just, when you look at the context of the games in which he performed that way, it's like, okay, he played in a 5-1 loss against Vegas, 5-2 loss against Vegas, and sure, he stopped all the shots he had faced in these losses, but still, he came in relief. It's not really the same, So, Campbell definitely needs a bit more improvement for next season to prove that he is worth that amount of money. If he is not, the Oilers might find a way to trade him, might force him out on some sort of a deal. Who really knows? His contract at the moment only has a modified no-trade clause. So, if we take a look at Cap Friendly, it says here that it's a 10-team no-trade list. There are 21 teams in the NHL that he would be able to get traded to. We'll just see where the Oilers are able to get that done, if it does get done, of course. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Jack Campbell and his decline over the past year and a bit? Do you think this is going to lead to a trade? Do you think he's going to remain an Oiler for the rest of his career? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.